Well, hello there. It's Yvonne from Women's Fitness Adventures. Lovely to have you here on for me is what a very it's a very dull, cold, rainy day. So to put it into perspective, I live in Brisbane, which is in Queensland, for those of you who don't know, wherever you're watching from. And we have had 72 millimeters of rain today. So I woke up at 3 a.m. to torrential rain and are still having that rain. So a day to not go hiking and also to just catch up on some paperwork. So I'm going to talk about um, what am I talking about? I'm talking about learning how to trust our body at any age and at any stage. So if you are watching live, please go ahead and say hello. I will check the chat and just see where we all are with that. Here it is. So, hi, Sharon. Very wet there too. I think it's just wet everywhere at the moment. Incredibly wet. It just has been torrential today. So lovely to have you here, both of you from the Gold Coast. So I'm going to talk about learning to trust our bodies or retrust our bodies or reconnect with the girl that we once were, or perhaps stepping into the woman we are yet to become in terms of physical. And hello, Kathleen, as well. So we have, as for of our those of you who are watching, we have on Sundays as part of our membership our Sunday online walk and talk, where you connect with women from all over the place, wherever you live, and you just dial into the conversation, and you can walk around your own space and have a chat that way, and it's a great way to connect. And we were talking yesterday about the things that we used to do as kids that we no longer do as adults, or perhaps the things that we've chosen to do as adults that we never had the opportunity to as kids. And what did it really mean? And what was the common thread? So, some of the things that we did as kids, which were swings, which were bikes, which were climbing trees, perhaps it was hopping and skipping, using skipping ropes, that sort of thing. Um, uh, some of the things that we stopped along the way. So, we may have stopped them because we got busy, we got jobs, we became parents, we got injured, we wanted time. Um, you know, we had no time, or if we became parents, we wanted that time for ourselves. And often that meant not jumping in the pool with the kids, so you could just have that space to yourself. um, or it could mean that we somewhere along the way lost confidence as well, or never had the opportunity to do some of those things. So our conversation revealed, though, that as we become more confident in our own bodies, that trust in our own bodies comes back, and we're willing to try some things that perhaps have been a long time since we did some of those things, and perhaps willing to try new things because we have a collective community and some newfound courage that we may not have had previously. So, hello, Meg from Perth on your way home, and hello, Sandra from Sydney. So, some of the things I started off the conversation, some of the things that I don't do now, and I think it's an adult thing, is getting on a swing set. And as a kid, you'd kind of go as high as you possibly could and then just jump off the other end and land safely most of the time. And now the thought of going on a swing, I think it's an inner ear or something to do with balance. If someone knows, please jump in. But the thought of actually going on a swing makes me feel physically sick. So I'm not sure that there's not some inner balance thing there. I'm the same height as I was at 12 years old, so it's certainly not a height issue. But there's something in there with our sense of balance or something. Some adults can absolutely do that. So swings were one of the things. Skipping rope, which is great for our bones, but learning for some of us, it was not learning how to skip rope, but getting the brain and the body to coordinate and feel confident to lift ourselves up off the ground. And we see that when we do our step fit training, and we give everyone the option of whether you want to do a little bit of box jumping on there. Not high, but it is a confidence thing. um, there's also the monkey bars. We were talking a lot about the monkey bars. Now, for some of you, it might be reliving your childhood, but the monkey bars, where we would literally be able to swing ourselves from one bar to another. And a couple of years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago now, we were doing some training in the gym for our groups going to the Dolomites and Iceland. And we were doing just a holding, not even a chin up, which is very hard for women, just a holding thing. And for most women, we really don't have a whole lot of upper body strength. We really have to work on it. And most of us couldn't last very long at all. So a couple of the ladies on the conversation were saying that monkey bars were a really hard thing to do, not just for them, but for their sons and daughters who were 30 years younger, so 30 years old, that challenge was really hard too. And we were wondering whether that is just because we haven't used those muscles, or because our body weight and distribution has changed, or we don't have the hand grip anymore. So all of these things that we may or may not have done as kids, all of them involved lots of different movement patterns. They involved lots of balance. They involved lots of grip strength and coordination, and thinking as we were moving and thinking as we were going. And they inadvertently allowed us to um, build that trust inside our body. So, as a kid, we didn't really think about it. We didn't overthink it either. We just got on with playing, and that's what it was. There was those roundabout things that we would, get, get our friends on, and then just spin it as hard as we possibly could, till the, almost ready to throw up, or you'd spin yourself right off it. And it was just about playing. But all of those things built, the pushing and the pulling of the swing, um, the engaging of the abdominals to get yourself and the legs up and down on the swing. All of those things that we did as kids built our body strength. It built our patterning. It built, how we moved freely through the world. It built a lot of balance and things like that. And then somewhere along the way, we either got busy, or we realized that the enjoyment of that was not worth the risk of potentially hurting ourselves. And as we get older and we get more responsibility, we do have a lot more to lose if we were to hurt ourselves. And that losing could be, time away from the things that earn us money, or time away from, managing the little kids and stuff like that, because we may have hurt ourselves in some way. So at some point, all those things that we did as kids to build muscles, to build balance, to build coordination, to build this awareness and confidence in our body, we stopped doing. And then it became that, how do I get back to that? Do I need to get back to that? And if I get back to that, what could that look like? But then on the flip side, there's the conversation was also as kids that they never got the opportunity to do the things that they're now doing, as a midlife woman. And the conversation came around to one of our members who recently returned from the UK hike. And she said one of the days was a new experience for her, because she needed to do some rock hopping, and she'd not had that experience. And not really done it, hasn't had that experience as an adult, and hadn't done that for a long, long time. And I don't know about you, but there was a period in my life there where the kids were little, and my husband was, at home looking, we were out on a picnic or something like that. And I would let him do all that fun stuff with the kids, because I just wanted that time to myself. And perhaps it's different when you're a grandparent and you jump back in and do that. But those things, you think, oh, well, that rock hopping's just for them, and that all that time in the pool is just for them, because you're wanting to just reclaim some time for yourself. But when we're doing that, we're actually taking away that opportunity to playfully build our muscle strength, our coordination, our proprioception, how we move through the world, our, balance, all of those things, because we're just doing the observing rather than doing the doing. And we also moved into that space of protecting our body, protecting it so that it could do all those other aspects of our life, rather than using the body as it was designed for. So have a think about the things that you used to do as a child or a young girl, or didn't get the opportunity to, that you, if you did them as a child, that you don't do now, and why is that? And some things, are just too risky to do as adults. You have a bit of hindsight. But things like just skipping down the street. I remember growing up in Melbourne, jumping over the fire hydrants. And I went back last year to try to visit, and I tried doing that. But as I said, I was the same height now as I was when I was 12, and I don't know how I got over those things. because this time I was thinking that I would, fall over them, and falling flat onto a concrete footpath isn't a great thing to do. But think back to when you last did something physical just for pure fun, not for fitness, not as a goal, but just because you could. When was the last time you did something? And I know our pickleballers on here, that's the stuff we do just for fun. Our runners on here, that's the stuff. I mean, that is fitness, but you do some of those things just for fun as well. Um, so Anne is realizing that her body is tired, that my body is being tired is okay. I will recover. Yeah, good point, Anne. And there's a lot of research around that. I think I've spoken on this before with Roger Federer and Serena Williams. And when they were at their older end of their tennis careers, they could still win and still do the amazing things. They just needed more rest time in between. And that's the key. We can still do those things. We may not, for them, they could, but we may not do them as fast. We may not do them as efficiently, but we can still do them if we have built that strength up in our body and we do allow ourselves enough time to recover. So the other thing that came up was this fear of heights and or fear of falling, which is something I used to have a lot. And I'm still not great going near edges, and most of our community isn't great on edges either, which is fantastic because we don't really have to worry too much. There's a few that like the edges, but generally most aren't edge dwellers. But the more you and even swing bridges for some, or even where there's quite a bit of, say, from here to that wall, quite a bit of distance between that and a hillside is enough to scare some people out. Which is fair enough, and it comes down to what we were exposed to as children, but also what we attach to that feeling, and how to, if we choose to, get um, build the confidence to have that not as a big deal. And I was just reading something on that. Maybe I should test that with my bird phobia and take take a little posse around me of people, and go out walking when it's bird season. Mind you, in all the rain today, they did come and sit on my balcony, and I spoke very kindly to all of the birds. So I hope they will take that back to their bird community. So just going to check in here. Barbara says water skiing is at times challenging now due to loss of strength, not because I put on weight though. And we tend to not, we can get so hung up on our weight, but if we have a goal, if we have something that we put out there, that lose weight, feel good, all of that tends to go by the wayside because we're working towards something bigger than weight. We want our bodies to be strong and capable for the things that we want to do. But water skiing can be a challenge due to loss of strength. And that's one of the things that, with every passing year, no matter how old we are, that we do need to do our strength training. We need to do our mobility training. We need to do our movement training, because if you think something is hard now, it is going to be so much harder next year. So, we need to, and the year after, and the year after that. So we need to keep moving. Leonie, who is an awesome member, says, I am very blessed to work at a school and attend 2 school camps each year. I join in the fun, and you absolutely do. You get in trailers and pack those as well. Had to do your job last week. I join in the fun with the kids, like giant swing, harness activities, and the like. It's hard work as I get older, but I really love to be engaged in child's play. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Leonie, as well. And hello, Morna. Um, so this exposure theory is quite a good thing. So as I said, I used to have this fear of heights, which I then figured out was actually not a fear of heights. It was a fear of falling and hurting myself. But over the past 15 years or so, as I've done more things in the outdoors, I don't do anything silly. I don't do anything that would put myself or anyone else at risk, but I am now much more confident walking near on a trail near an edge. I'm much more confident clambering over big rocks and things like that. And it's because I have um, progressed. I haven't gone from zero to hero. I've progressed and put myself in a situation where I know the outcome is almost guaranteed, but I've just been exposing myself to these scenarios little by little. And as I build that confidence, I can go from point A to point B without anything happening. It's that reminder pattern that keeps coming back to our bodies. I did that successfully. Therefore, why wouldn't I be able to do that again? And so you just make the next challenge that little bit more little bit more further along. And so after a while, you have, um, exposed yourself to a broader range of environments than you were when you were first worried, about the fear of falling or the fear of heights. And I spoke on this, was it last week or the week before, about the fear of the descent and whether we are descent fit when we go down a trail. So, um, we can think about the outcome so much that we become paralyzed by fear, or we can get that support around us and just test out little bits at a time. So if we think about going down a trail, and we did cancel our hiking today in the rain because it would have been dangerous. So we wouldn't put ourselves in a dangerous situation. But if you're worried about going down a gravelly hill that's reasonably steep, then you wouldn't start there. You'd start with a much, much smaller slope. You'd get some people who knew, were aware, and they would be around you and they'd be supporting you. You'd probably have some poles. You might start without a pack so that you're giving yourself the best conditions to be successful. And then once you conquer that and feel confident, you then put a pack on or a lighter pack, or you then ask the person who's supporting you to step a meter or two away from you. So you just do it little by little, and then we become stronger. And that's the thing when it comes to, if it's getting back on the swings or, balancing or being confident on the trail, it's that exposure theory, one step at a time. Because if we're not doing that, if we're not stepping into it, by doing nothing, we're actually stepping away from it. It's like the same as, if you, say some world event and you're impartial, or not saying yes to something means you're actually saying no to something. We if we stand still, we're actually either consenting or going backwards. So we need to just, figure out where it is we want to go. And if you manage to figure out that little cryptic clue, then good on you. Um, but what we do now with more confidence, and I've seen this in women in our community, I've seen this, you know, um, almost like a flower blossoming, is that when women get stronger, they get more confident on the trail. They get better balance, so they can rock hop. And I've seen some amazing rock hoppers that had never done it as children, but have that confidence in their body because they've been working hard to know what it feels like when they're not strong, to know what it feels like when they are strong, to know what it feels like when their body's not right, and to know what it feels like to be great, not just good, but absolutely great. Um, and so when we rebuild that trust in our body, and as I said from the headline, any age, any stage, when we rebuild that trust from our body, we get more confidence. We get more confidence not just to do the physical things that the trail might demand of us, but confidence as we move through the world, confidence to travel, confidence to, and I know one of our members, she's um, not watching tonight, but when she first started, she would never drive beyond her suburb. And as she got stronger on the trail, she now drives all over the place. And so that confidence translates to many other areas of our life as well. Sharon says, I recently read on a hiker's Insta post the anagram for fear was false evidence appearing real. Absolutely. And we can attach whatever we want to fear, and we all have it. We need to embrace that friendly fear. When we're doing our hike training in preparation for our multi-day hikes and stuff, friendly fear, feeling like if I don't train, then maybe I won't be as successful as I need to on the trail. That's friendly fear. It motivates you to keep going further. But fear that paralyzes you, that false evidence appearing real, that if I go down that hill, then I might fall over. And so therefore I'm scared about going down that hill, which creates all this pattern in our head of when we're going downhill, all I'm thinking about is, can I fall over? Or will I fall over? Or when will I fall over? And this wrist here that I broke in 2017, I was riding my mountain bike across a bridge, and this is the case in point. All I could think about was, don't look at the edge, don't look at the edge, don't look at the edge. And of course, I rode my bike off the edge of the bridge into the creek. I'm lucky I didn't do more than this, but the more you think about something, the more it will happen. So that fear can really grow inside. So call it friendly fear. It's designed to help you, making sure you know fact from fiction as well. And hello, Sam. I've been following your trails from Lisbon. Looks amazing. So Morna says, when my 5-year-old grandson says, chase me, Morny, I always say yes now because it's another opportunity to dodge and twist and turn in his small backyard. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a really great story to share, Morna, because it is easy, and we see many out there who go, no, that's not what Granny does. So Morny is much better than Granny. Um, and the other thing is that, um, I see the difference, the confidence that being on the trail builds in women from day 1 to day 3. So I saw it on the Great Ocean Road every year that I've done that. The hikers on day 1 are very different to the hikers on day 3. Day 3, they're unstoppable, that bridge of empowerment, if you saw my post. But we also had that feedback come in from the UK hikers that, by day 3, they had found their rhythm. They were moving as a team. They were stronger. They were more confident. That stepping up, stepping down, stepping over, around, when the conditions changed, when the conditions were perfect, because they're doing this physical thing and building this kind of cycle pattern going, I've done this, I'm getting stronger. And then it just keeps repeating itself. There's no reason it worked today. Why wouldn't it work tomorrow? Have that confidence and start to push that doubt away. Because guess what? I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning. It was pouring with rain. And do you think I could go back to sleep? No. So what happens at 3 o'clock in the morning? All those negative, horrible thoughts that catastrophize everything come into your head. So we all have them. So the stronger and more confident we can be in our own body's ability, the more tired, we're doing physical, the more tired we'll be at night and sleep better. But it might just push some of those things away as well. And the other thing that I see in terms of circling back to our conversation around, building this strength in the body and the things that we used to do as kids that we may not do now, or the things that we do now that we never had the opportunity to do as kids. And some of the ladies said they just, they rock hop, they climb mountains, they do all sorts of things that they never did as kids because they never had that opportunity. Is that when we're in a group, the collective courage makes all the difference, so much more than an individual on their own, because it lowers the perceived threat of something happening. So if she can do it, then I can do it too. It's social proof that someone like me can actually do that. So why wouldn't I? Or someone like me is actually trying to do that. So why wouldn't I? So the group actually amplifies the courage. And I've seen that play out over and over and over again, even when it comes to trying different foods in different locations, or to when we first went to Japan, going in the onsens, and that collective courage of none of us had done this before. So let's all just feel nervous together and do the whole thing. So that collective courage, or the group atmosphere, actually amplifies the courage. So, if we feel hesitant at first, but we step in with support, we build that confidence in our body and feel strong. And then the next day we've just got that confidence, and we just keep building this cycle after cycle after cycle. But here's the thing, our bodies that we have now are not the same as our bodies that we had well, they're the same, but they aren't the same as we were in our 20s. And our bodies change, as we all know. And, some of us have had kids, some of us have had, injuries, some of us have had some, you know, um, illness that has changed our physical appearance of our body. And, there's a lot of people out there saying, "Well, oh, women, we're still that novelty on the trail." But there's a lot of women I know that can do so much more than women half our age. And there are women half our age that cannot do the things that we do. And they look at us and think, even, on the trail, we see 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. I have some young family friends who are in their 20s who go hiking, and they're like, "What, you did that? How did you do that?" And it's just, we've trained our bodies to be strong. We've trained our bodies to do that. And that is the world, that is the community, and all our members that I move in, is that everyone is out there training their bodies to be stronger because they did it before decades ago. We just train differently. And so now we're back in that space, really wanting to enjoy all those things that we could do as children. But, it really comes down to investing in your body. The easy option is to do nothing for now. That's the easy option. The hard option is to train every day or have a rest day every day to do something. And as I said, the easy option is to do nothing now, but that will show up in 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, and then it will be hard. So the more we can invest in our own physical ability, our movement, our mobility, our stability, our balance, our strength, using outdoors, using hiking to, or something physical for fun, the easier life is going to be for, all the time that we have ahead of us. The great thing about hiking, as opposed to most other exercise out there, and I've said this before as well, is that the trail is unpredictable. So, just like as kids, all of those activities taught us to use different muscle groups, to use grip, to use strength, to use balance, to movement, to proprioception, to think as we move, as we have multitask along the way. Hiking does all of that. Hiking is all about every step we take, the foot doesn't know what surface it's going to land on the trail. Every step we take, we're on an uneven, potentially surface compared to, say, the footpath, and we're in balance. We're in forward motion. We're always thinking ahead about what our feet placement are, or about having to duck our head or crawl under do a bear crawl under a log or something like that. So hiking will give you all of that to build strength in the body, all of that to build confidence, all of that to just experience the pure joy of, having some physical fun, but to really just nourish the body in midlife as well. Because it will be a big day on the trail will be demanding and you'll be tired at the end of the day, but it's not like we're putting the body under huge amounts of stress. We're not lifting extreme weights when we're on the trail. We're not, you know, pushing and there's a couple of hills, but we're not sprinting, we're not, you know, putting excess load on the joints, all of those things. So hiking does a lot of things that other exercises can't do, but it's also good for the soul. So have a think about, as I leave you, what you're doing in your everyday, and please comment below, especially if you're watching on the replay, what you're doing in your everyday to um, trust your body, any age, any stage. What are you doing now that you perhaps haven't done for a while? What are you leaving behind? Swings are definitely, and monkey bars not coming back for me. But I know that some of the things, I can still ski, not very well, but taught myself to ski a couple of years ago. Um, I can do it. I'm still on greens. I'm never going to go off green. But what is it that you're doing to keep yourself physically active, to keep yourself mobile, to keep learning to trust your body, to know and understand your body at any age and at any stage? So that's it for me from this week. Hopefully the rain will stop. I won't have to build any ark to get out of here. And I look forward to catching